Hey everybody, today I thought I'd take a look at my Legend of Zelda collection, not just the games, but some of the other odds and ends that I have sitting around. I don't have nearly the expansive collection that some people have. Some people really go deep with their stuff, but I did think I had a lot of cool things, and some things that I thought some people might like to see that aren't real common. So we'll go ahead and get started, I guess, in somewhat chronological order with the first Legend of Zelda on the NES. As you can see, sitting in front of us, we've got the boxed gold cartridge version of the Legend of Zelda. This game did have a release on a gray cart called the Classic Series, I believe. I actually had the Classic Series some time ago, but sold it for some reason. I don't really remember why, but I don't have it anymore. The manual was really cool. Back then, manuals were a lot more than multilingual basic instructions for a game. This included a lot of backstory for The Legend of Zelda. Things that couldn't be described in-game because the technology was a lot more rudimentary than it is today. You didn't have cutscenes and big blocks full of dialogue, so a lot of the story was actually introduced in the instruction manual. Here we've got the Legend of Zelda maps and strategies. A lot of people have this, but you know, it was probably chucked with most people's versions of the game back in 1987. As you can see, the map is not complete. You were supposed to draw things in those squares as you went along, and there were different tips. The thing I like the most about these old books by Nintendo is the graphical style. You can see Link is portrayed much differently than he is today. Going along with the original Legend of Zelda, I have what you would consider to be an early strategy guide to the Legend of Zelda game called Tips and Tactics. This is a precursor to the strategy guides of today. It does not really give you a step-by-step instruction on how to beat the game. It repeats a lot of things that are in the manual. But it does give you tips and suggestions on ways to proceed, especially at parts where a lot of people got stuck. So kind of interesting. It also included a full map of the game, which the previous owner here has made his notes on. So that was kind of cool. If you bought this book, you actually got a full map rather than the basic map that was in the instruction manual. Next in the series, of course, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, that we've got with the manual. A lot of people don't like this game, or at least not as much as other Zeldas. I thought it was really cool. It was a good game. I didn't like the side-scrolling like most people, but if you could get past it, it was a very fun game to play. And you have to remember too that the side-scrolling, although looking back is unique to the series, at the time there were only 2 Zelda games, so 50% of them were side-scrolling. Here's the cartridge. Now they did release an NES Classic version of this game also, which I had at one point. I don't remember what happened. Here's the box. The cool thing about this copy that I have, and I bought it secondhand, is that inside the box somebody had actually handmade their own map of Hyrule. There was a map that came with the game, a very basic map, kind of like the first Zelda, that only included a portion of the overworld. And what this guy did was photocopied that original map and used it as a template to make a full version of the game world of Hyrule for Zelda 2. And I just thought it was really neat. It was kind of well done. It was part of the history of this specific cartridge copy of Zelda 2, so I went ahead and kept it in the box. I don't know who did it, and if whoever did it is watching now, I just want to commend you. Job well done. Moving on, the only Zelda game that I own that I don't have complete is probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite of the series, SNES Zelda, Link to the Past. Manual's not in great shape, but pretty good overall. Nice copy of Link to the Past. Then moving on, I never had the original Game Boy version of Link's Awakening, but as soon as it came out, I got the Link's Awakening DX, which was, for the Game Boy Color, and that's got the manual. And for some reason I really liked these Game Boy Color cards with the black casing. That meant that they could be played on original Game Boy or a Game Boy Color. I kind of liked them better than the clear Game Boy Color only cartridges. Now, I never did get the other Game Boy games, or at least I didn't keep them. Ocarina of Time is the next in sequence anyway. But before I get on to Ocarina of Time, I did have Oracle of Ages boxed and complete for a while, and I never finished that game. It was not a bad game. It just didn't do it for me, I guess. It was very similar to Link's Awakening, but just something about it was not quite right with me. It just didn't resonate with me, so I sold it not too awfully long ago. Maybe I'll get it again someday, but I've never really had the urge to play Oracle of Ages all the way through, even though I had it, and I never did own Oracle of Seasons. So, but Ocarina of Time Collector's Edition is what we've got here. Between Link to the Past and this, it's difficult to pick which is my favorite. This was my version. I went to Toys R Us the first day that you could reserve this game, and was actually concerned that I would be late, but I was probably the first guy there, even though it was in the afternoon. And here's the copy of the cartridge. Word to the wise for anybody handling these cartridges, I found out years later I used to put my thumb on the label, and it kind of wore some of the gold off. It's not real bad, but you can see under certain light that it wore some of the gold off the label. But this is my copy. It has a lot of sentimental value to me, and it's in pretty good shape. I'd never part with it. Like I said, I can still remember the day I picked it up, and the funny thing is I never even got the game home. You can see there's a little bit of damage to the corner of the box. I had just gotten home and opened the car door, and my dog shot into the car, and first thing he did, of course, was step on the box of the game that I just bought and never even got to play yet. So needless to say, I was kind of ticked, and you know, it's kind of a funny story looking back today. It doesn't aggravate me too much, especially now that that dog is long gone. But I wasn't really happy at the time. Majora's Mask. This is also the collector's edition. I remember really being excited, going to a website called the Odyssey of Hyrule, looking up as much information as I could on the next copy or the next version of The Legend of Zelda that would come out, which was Majora's Mask, or at the time everyone thought it was called Majula's Mask or Mask of Majula. I didn't pre-order this game, but I did send my mom to pre-order it. I told her I wanted this game for Christmas. I was in high school at the time, so I don't know if she had any better ideas, but she went ahead and pre-ordered this for me so that I could get the collector's edition. There was an offer at Toys R Us that if you reserved the game, you could also reserve a special gold N64 controller, which I declined to do. Looking back, I wish I would have gotten that gold controller, but it was like an extra $30, and I didn't need another controller. So, next in sequence in the games, we had The Wind Waker. A lot of people didn't like the graphical style of this game. I probably would have preferred a more realistic looking Zelda game, but it wasn't bad. It was a good game, but not one of my favorite Zeldas, even though it was a good game. But I did go ahead and pre-order so that I could get the bonus disc right here, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time with the Master Quest. I remember being really stoked about Master Quest, hoping that it would be what we called online at the time Euro Zelda. But as most of you Zelda fans know, it's kind of just a remixed version of Ocarina of Time with harder dungeons. It doesn't have any additional content like Euro Zelda was supposed to. Nintendo to this day claims that Master Quest is Euro Zelda. I don't believe it. Euro Zelda was supposed to, and I believe that was part of it, was some redesigned dungeons, but Euro Zelda was supposed to add content. So I still hold out hope that Nintendo will someday release the full Ocarina of Time the way it was supposed to be with Euro Zelda. I thought they might do it for the 3DS, but what can you do? Also for the GameCube, this was the Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition. This came with the Platinum GameCube. I didn't own a Platinum GameCube, but I did pick up this game later on. You can see I actually have some notes in here. I think my notes include what I picked for my Scarecrow song. So that's kind of humorous. Then we have the Twilight Princess. The great game. I was really looking forward to this game on GameCube. It didn't happen. Well, it happened, but it was simultaneously released with the Wii version. So most people picked up the Wii version, myself included. I didn't get the GameCube version. So then finally Skyward Sword, and my version includes a soundtrack. I also had a Nintendo Power soundtrack for Twilight Princess. I misplaced it. I can't find where I put it right now, but it was not real good. It only had a handful of tracks, and it just came in a little paper cover. I should have searched, I guess, a little bit harder, but I don't know how many people are interested in that, so I'll get a picture of it if anybody is really that excited, but it wasn't a very good soundtrack. But there's the Skyward Sword. And then we'll go through, I've got some of the DS, the 3DS version of Ocarina of Time, and the Phantom Hourglass. I never got Legend of Zelda Spirit tracks. And as far as handhelds go, I told you about Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. I also never got the Minish Cap or the Four Swords Adventures for GameCube. So, like I said, I don't have the definitive Zelda collection, but I do have some neat stuff. Link's Crossbow Training, I didn't like the little case that it came in, so I got online and printed out my own case. Then, some miscellaneous things. There's a little Link figurine. This was made by Applause back in, I believe, 1988. think it says on here 1989 maybe. But I think I actually have the full collection of these Applause figurines from Nintendo. This is just a link. There are a lot of Super Mario Brothers themed figurines, and Little Mac and King Hippo from Punch-Out. I believe I've got the full set. I actually had some carded ones at one point that I had sold. If anybody wants, I might take a look at those and film those sometime. Then we have here, I think I got this for registering, oh heck, what's it called? Phantom Hourglass for the Nintendo DS. They sent this to me. It's actually a little stylus for your Nintendo DS that's supposed to look like a quill. So I thought that was pretty neat. Like I said, I believe it was just for registering my copy, but don't quote me on that. It just kind of came in the mail one day. I also got the Phantom Hourglass Special Digest version, which to me means so small you can barely read the text. This was a premium I got for subscribing to Nintendo Power or resubscribing. And it was the last guide that I ever got from Nintendo Power. A lot of times you got guides just for resubscribing, and this was the last one. And I remember it took forever to get here. I had to write Nintendo a few times asking what the holdup was, hoping that they didn't forget about me. Other strategy guides, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, that's the official player's guide, had some damage on it. Then we've got the Majora's Mask official player's guide, the Wind Waker, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, which I got for subscribing to Nintendo Power, along with that Twilight Princess soundtrack, which wasn't all that good. And then there's the Ocarina of Time 3D strategy guide. Those are the only ones I have. So I'm missing a few there too. Don't have the Link to the Past strategy guide, notably. But I do have this, the official guide to the Legend of Zelda. This is the second edition. This was released by Nintendo Power before they ceased operations. And it's just kind of a retrospective look at all of the Zelda games. It's got some posters in it of various artwork from the different versions of Link throughout the ages. This isn't very exciting, but I thought I'd throw it in. This was some some paperwork that I'd gotten over time for from the Legend of Zelda. This one was something they mailed me after I bought Wind Waker to subscribe to Nintendo Power. And then most of you probably of my age remember the Nintendo game packs with top secret tricks. It was a series of scratch cards and a few stickers that you got. This was the wrapper of Link, old enough that these were actually wax packs. I've opened all my cards, but you could keep the wrapper nice because it was a wax pack rather than the foil packs that they have today. And then lastly, and this is not exclusively Zelda, but on the same theme, here's the collection. There's Link of the Nintendo game pack cards and stickers. Legend of Zelda up there. I had a lot of fun with these as a kid. I've actually gone through several sets over time, but I finally got a complete set that I didn't scratch off and put inside of this book. So here's some of your scratch off cards, and as you can see, there are a few Zelda themed cards that look like game screens, and that's really what these cards were a way to play Nintendo games without the Nintendo. Each card had instructions on how to win the game. Depending on what you scratched off, you would either win or lose. And there were quite a few Zelda and Adventure of Link cards. Love the old graphical style on this stuff, like I said. So that about wraps it up. Like I said, I don't have an extensive collection of Zelda stuff, but I have quite a bit. And I thought some of you might like to see it, although this video did go on a lot longer than I anticipated because I like to blather. So I'll end it on that note. Thank you very much. If you have any comments, leave them below, and I'll see you next time.